Hi, everybody. Craig from URComped here with another exciting interview with the host whisperer, Nick Ippolito. Nick, how are you, sir?
Fantastic, buddy. Great to be here. Great to be on with you.
Well, I was admiring your shirt before we went live. Is that a Ocean's 11 shirt right there?
And cheers, baby. Everybody thinks it's from the movie Casino. It's a fake
It's
casino, but it's based on the Stardust, the movie Casino. Correct? Correct me if I'm wrong, please. Everyone, correct me if I'm wrong.
I
My
yeah,
favorite shirt, man.
I love it.
Tangiers
It's a muscle
Hotel
shirt. Man, you've
Casino.
been working out, huh?
No, I have the filter on. No, it's. I bought the shirt at Baby Gap.
That's it. This medium. Um,
Small.
that that's awesome. I love it. Well, I mean, speaking of working out, getting reps in, you just got back from the Chicken Ranch Casino, right?
Oh, speaking of work, yeah, that was great, man. Fantastic. Lot of great new stuff being developed there and opening and on the horizon at the Chicken Ranch Casino, which is so funny because here in Nevada in Las Vegas we have a chicken ranch, which is definitely not. It's a gamble, but it's definitely not a casino. Um, and so it's called the Chicken Ranch. It's outside Yosemite, near Sonora and Tuolumne, California, and they have a brand new facility opening soon. Hotel, spa, beautiful restaurant. And I went there and did my customer service, which I have just as much passion for casino customer service as I do for player development these days. And God, it was 3 days of classes and 4 classes each day, and whew, we had a lot of fun though, Craig. We had a lot of fun. One class we had about 60 people, and God, we just yelling out, audience participation, just learning customer service. And it's nice that I could bring a little bit, not the full player development, obviously, but a little bit of player development to the dishwasher, to the server, to the guy behind the cage, to the accountant, And that's the beauty of why I call it. I mean, it's customer service 101, but the reason why I have casino customer service, because there's definitely a way to speak to a gambler, right? There's trigger word. I mean, right, that you got, and a lot of people don't know. Even hosts I train don't know the trigger word. So you really have to do your research on the mentality and the psychology of a gambler, and understand how to lobby things back at them when they say something to you, or challenges they confront you with, or obstacles they confront you with. You have to know what to lobby back at them and what not is going to spark that trigger, or that explosive behavior that they have, that paranoid and suspicious behavior that they're built with. So great customer service training at the Chicken Ranch Casino, and I think I'm going back very soon and to do their player development, to help them with their player development.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah, I know they got a great leadership team there, and yeah, it looks like a beautiful property by Yosemite, like you
Eric
said.
Barbar, Eric.
Eric, shout out to Eric. You know what? Somebody I used to work with at
Uh,
Harris Tahoe when I started my career a million years ago, Lindsay, is over
oh
there
yeah, yeah.
as well. So, anyway, best of luck. Obviously, they are on the right track. They got Nick coming out there to train the squad. Uh, we were talking about what are we going to do in our next discussion, which is now,
Our week,
and
our weekly catch up with Craig and Nick. I think that's what.
our our weekly our cocktails at the Tangiers. Maybe that's what
Oh, love it.
we'll. But valuing table game players, because it seems like slots
Oh yeah.
everyone's comfortable with, theoretical. That always works. Table games can be challenging because, I mean, with URComp, we sent a player one time that dropped 250,000 actual loss like that, and his Theo was like $1,000. It was below the threshold for us to even earn a commission. Believe me, I was very frustrated. But yeah, but that guy with $1,000 Theo, he's lucky to get a room, or
I can't
get a room.
enter.
But anyway, it's tough. So walk me through how you think about valuing table players.
So yeah, well, it started with the poll that I did on LinkedIn, where it was this ADW, ADW. That's where this whole thing started. This whole conversation started, and I've gotten so much. I got so many DMs and text messages. Matt Oxford texts me, and I got some DMs on LinkedIn, because I wrote, if the player, I can't remember, I could pull it up, but I can't remember exactly, but I wrote, if the player loses $1,600 and his average bet's something and his Theo is 80, what's his worth? And I listed some ideas. I had some options. One I didn't make up. One I was staring at a computer while I wrote it. But it was funny how, and pretty much everyone got the same answer. And but other people had other opinions and other stories. And like you and I talked about in the last one about what does free play cost? What's the cost of free play? And I'm like, nobody knows. Nobody knows the cost of free play, right? And we still haven't got an answer. Some people say free, some people say $100, some people say $1, some people buy right, whatever. And the same thing I ask about worth. What is that ADW? What does that mean? So the thing that we're going to discuss right now, and hopefully get comments on and stuff like that, is we live in theoretical. You just mentioned a commission, right? We get commissioned in theoretical. We comp in theoretical. We send offers in theoretical. We whatchamacallit, we judge the host, right? Their productivity is in theoretical. Everything's theoretical, which I love, right? I'm an ADT guy, right? ADT, 80. Well, me, I'm DT, and it's not even average daily Theo. It's daily Theo for me, right? I live in DT. I love it. And it's funny how we do all this stuff in theoretical, but yet we don't call the electric company and we don't say, well, here's theoretically, we're going to pay you the bill this month, right? We don't do it, right? So cash is king, cash is king. Now, when that crosses, so I don't know what worth means. I don't know how we've come up with this worth. I don't know how data place people do it. Sean Kennedy, if he's watching, I had Jay-Z panel for me because I missed OIGA this year because I did Penn Gaming in Lake Charles. I did 2 of their properties in Lake Charles, Penn Gaming. So I had Jay-Z panel moderate my panel, and we had Sean Kennedy, and we had Ken McGuire, and we had Jeff Felcher, and the great Michael Chapman. Brilliant minds in the industry, and it was about worth. What's the player's worth? So when we talk about worth and we factor in a loss, so you just said it, a guy lost whatever let's go lower, right? Let's not talk about, because a guy loses 200,000 or 10,000, we're going to take care of that. But my point is, when a guy loses 5,000 or $7,500, right? A lot of the hosts will go to the loss. We'll comp off loss. We'll look at the loss. And I think the loss is factored in the worth of a player, right? But my advocate, my cry this week is, should we? We live in theoretical. So I don't care if the guy lost 10,000. If he has an 80 theoretical, he don't get nothing. Mm-hmm. He don't get comped. We don't send him nothing. Great, thanks for the 10,000. But now, of course, the host going to go, screw this. I'm going to give the guy a cheeseburger, whatever. That's fine. But you don't understand, right? There's a math, right? We live by this math, and there's a math, and there's a proven formula. And nowhere in the theoretical formula is win or loss. It's not in the theoretical formula. So that's my whole point. If you have the math to go to the moon, right, and you stick to the math and you land on the moon, the minute you start, getting off that math and making your own little, variations, I don't know where you end up, Jupiter or in the ocean or burned up in the sun, right?
Yeah.
So worth is an interesting thing to me. And again, especially somebody who loses 2,500 or $1,000, $1,400, the average table player, right? Yep. 1,700, 1,800. And again, we're not talking about Vegas or Atlantic City or the Bahamas, right? We're talking about the real casinos. Woo! Yeah. Shout out. So the guy loses 1,400, 1,700 in the tables. He's going to have an 80 theoretical. He's going to have a 120 theoretical. But well, should we comp him because he lost the 1,100? I don't know, Craig. Should we? We live in theoretical, and theoretical is the formula. And theoretical says you're giving me a shot at the money. You're giving me a shot at the money. You came to play. You got skin in the game, right? Win loss doesn't matter. The higher the theoretical, the better the player.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say. I mean, you're right. You gotta stick to your principles. If it's like, hey, we're gonna comp on Theo, you gotta comp on Theo. It's tricky if you're in a competitive market and they're like, well, you're screwing me over because over there I get X, Y, Z every time I lose, and you're giving me nothing. So I think your point you brought up earlier is there's never going to be a perfect formula for anything, or like there's no rule that applies to every casino in the country. So I mean, if you're in the middle, if you monopolize, you have a monopoly on the market, then you could probably say, I'm just going to do Theo, and it's going to be fine because the players don't really have a choice. But yeah, if you've got 4 other casinos that your player can drive to within a few minutes, then, or an equal distant drive, then you may have to be a little more flexible. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Competition changes the game, boy. Competition changes the game indeed. And most of the casinos I go to, they'll say that. Well, if the guy loses $1,000, I'll give him a room. If the guy loses a couple grand, I'm feeding him. I don't look at his theoretical. And there's still some places out there that go, no, he win or loss, we look at theoretical bottom line, So to your point, there is no set, matrix, and you do got to watch. But my point is, which one's right? Because the guy loses 1,400 in 40 minutes. He's not a good player. That's not a player. That's a guy who came to the casino anxious, full of anxiety, lost 400, lost his bankroll, and screwed, right? So should we reward that? Should that be a comp? Should that be? And then when you look at this worth, there's also split down the middle. In fact, I think it's greater on the Theo side when we look at host and when we bonus host, right? Let's say they had a good year where everybody lost money really fast in the table games. So they're going to have a very low Theo. They don't get a bonus. They don't even make their numbers. But the hosts are going, yeah, but I made 1.2 million in loss, right? Which pays the electric bill. It's another part of this industry that I said I'm popping bubbles this year and in 2024 that we never have the conversation. When I was just at Morongo, I was at lunch with my dear friend, Simon Farmer and Max over at Morongo. And I proposed a question to Simon, and it was a very interesting, response and a very interesting conversation we had at that lunch. And it had to do with host production and the EBITDA and things like that. Maybe we can do that in the next week on cocktails at the Tangier. But anyway, yeah, ADW. I'm hearing it a lot. I'm seeing it a lot. And here's the other obstacle. I'm not saying problems anymore. Here's the other obstacle. Marketing, right? We all know my next shirt's going to be PD should run the casino, right? That should be my next shirt. Yeah. But marketing is sending out mailers and offers and free bets and match play and free play. And they're basing it on this ADW. So the host and I'm in a different casino every week, right? Looking at a computer and sitting with a host and calling players and comp. And we're seeing discrepancies. We're seeing based on the worth, marketing says this person has this ADW, so we send him $500 or we send him $20. And then we look up the next player. Let's say we look up a player and they get 500. And the host and I look at each other like, I wouldn't give this guy 500, right? Next player's getting $75 and we go, well, that's the guy we would give 500 to, yeah. Right? So, yeah, there really is, this is, again, there's no answer to this, really. It's a great conversation. It's a great topic. It's a great podcast subject. I hope people comment and do all their stuff that they do. It's just an interesting part of the industry.
It's what I like.
Big bubble, and that bubble has been popped.
I like, so we send, URComped sends players to a lot of different cruise lines and casino partners. What I think is most fair, not saying it's the right, but what I like hearing is when a casino says, we'll comp 35% or 25, somewhere between there, 25 to 35. I think I've even seen 40 one time, which is crazy, but 25 to 35% of Theo or 10% of loss, whichever is greater. And I personally, I like hearing that because I feel like it's a fair shake for the player either way.
Right. I hear that.
Yeah.
I hear that. Sometimes I hear we do whichever one's greater, like 10% of loss or 10% of the Theo, whichever one helps the player. 35, 40 is extremely high. I have heard it, though, higher in the Theo than the loss.
Yeah.
So two things are happening there. One, again, it's cash money. Why wouldn't you comp more for the loss, right? So there's the proof. You just proved the formula. We're not going to comp more for the loss because this whole thing was not based on loss. It's based on that theoretical formula and how long you sit at the game. Mm-hmm. Because the longer you sit, if there's any players listening, the longer you sit, we're going to get you. Right? This month, next quarter, this week, we're going to get you. Right? We worked that out pretty well for ourselves, right? And if you play short amount of times, eventually you might be beating us, right? You might, the guy who comes in and here's where the what do they call it? The tables are turned, or the scale is moved. So a guy lost 1,423 minutes, then he lost 1,719 minutes, then he loses $800 in 12 minutes, then he loses $1,500 in 40 minutes. Now he's going to come in and play for 40 minutes, and he could beat us for way more than he's losing.
Yeah.
That's where that formula comes in, and that's where that worth and everything, has to line up properly.
Right. Right. Well, hey, this is what keeps it interesting. This is why we can talk about things every week.
I love these little things, and I love the polls. Polls on LinkedIn get the most. My polls get the most views and the most activity and the most shared, and people like these polls, so it's good.
Well, let's put on one. Like, what should our topic be next week? Let's see
I'm thinking. Yeah,
what the people say.
Yeah.
Well, Nick, where's your next? Where are you going next?
So I just did Morongo. They have a VIP call center there. I love Morongo, and I love the peeps there, and always great to have conversations with Max Gillette there. Great, meaningful, deep conversations with the PD manager. John Fernandez is there. Next is I'm at the Santa Ana. I feel like a comedian. I'll be at the Santa Ana Rose Casino performing my ventriloquist act. The Santa Ana Rose, right? God, I hope that's what it's called. Santa Ana Rose Casino in New Mexico.
Nice.
I'm there all week helping those guys out. And after that, I'm at Spirit Mountain in Oregon. Nice. And I'll probably stay a couple of days extra in Oregon. I'll probably Airbnb because I like the mountain air, and maybe do a little fishing.
Beautiful out there.
Yeah,
beautiful.
And I have Maryland Live coming up with Tom Tushmit coming up in October. Yeah, good stuff, man.
Nice. The road show.
The Ippolito Road Show. The Host Whisperer Road Show.
That's right. All right. Well, I'm looking forward to catching up again next week. Nick, thank you so much for
thank you, man.
Bubbles, dropping knowledge.
I love these in and out. Get to see each other more often.